Hi Graham, my name's Delilah.
Hi,
It's
Delilah.
great to have you with us today.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to ask a few questions. Okay. How did your initial degree training prepare you for the consulting work you now do with your company, Innovatia?
That initial degree, that feels like a very long time ago, in 1984 I think it was, and I guess if I look at what I do now and what I was taught and learned in those situations, what it did, it gave me the opportunity to meet people and get experience. And people made an assumption that if I had an Otago commerce degree, I sort of had the foundation skills right. That allowed me to get a role, that allowed me to meet some ideas and move on from there.
You were quite involved in overseeing the governance function within organisations. How important is governance and organisational design for success?
I think as I got older, I've learned that governance piece is actually way more important than I initially thought it was. You know, governance is about setting the direction for an organisation, sorting out the resources that are there, empowering your management team, and then keeping control of what's going on. And unless people have got that sorted out, organisations can drift in there. So it is a really important part of what's going on. I call it naming your mountain now, sorting out where you want to go and what you want to climb, and then that allows it to go. So yeah, I'm a great advocate of governance, and that's sort of where I've drifted to over the last 30 years.
How did your BCom majoring in accountancy prepare you for the responsibilities you now manage?
I don't think anybody has sort of prepared me for the responsibilities I now manage. Again, the accountancy major in those days was quite broad, and so I got an exposure to different parts of business, and then having the opportunities to learn that over the years led me to build on that as I went. I always looked at education and continuing education a key part of what I did, and so I tried to take the opportunities to learn. I was lucky the people I was working with helped me through that. But the education I got in that first degree was certainly the base for where I am now. But of course in 30 years the world's changed hugely, and you know, the stuff that we were looking at and debating in 1984 is ancient history, and so that continuous improvement is important. Therefore the degree bit about learning how to learn was really key.
You have a very interesting career path that includes accountancy, a partnership in a major accountancy firm, adult education, directorships, and now independent consulting. What has allowed you the opportunity to diversify your career interests?
I've always tried to be curious about what's going on, and I've enjoyed working with people on new projects or different things or evolving technologies, and so I've always said yes. My rule in life has been, if someone gives you an opportunity, have a go at it if you possibly can. And that's opened up a whole lot of things that I never thought I'd get involved in, but it's allowed me to build relationships with people as they developed, I go along for the ride with them. So yeah, it's been a whole process of being curious and being passionate about what you're trying to do, and then taking advantage of those opportunities that come up.
You have undertaken work in both the profit and non-profit sectors. How important is governance to a not-for-profit organisation?
Yeah, exactly the same in both sectors. Again, if you're setting the direction of an organisation and you're controlling those resources and you're making sure people are on track and you're dealing with those compliance pieces, it's no different in a commercial operation than a not-for-profit. What you're trying to do, that mountain you're trying to climb, might be different. You know, one might be a profit-orientated piece, and the other piece might be social services or delivery of outcomes or something. But more and more those are becoming together. But that governance role is critical in both. And what we're seeing out there now in the market is that there's an awful lot of not-for-profits supporting their governors through some training, because they're recognising just how important that is from them.
During your career, you developed an interest in auditing. I'm just wondering, what does fraud do to an organisation?
Yeah, a particular interest in auditing. Well, yeah, I ended up as an audit partner. I think you could define it as that, but whether it was a particular interest or not is a different story. Fraud is a fascinating thing, and while people always look at fraud and they look at the numbers or the dollars involved, and they look at the cars disappearing or the computers disappearing or whatever it is, and that's really have major effects on organisations. It's actually the social piece and the people piece that causes the problems. Because what happens after a fraud is that the trust goes, and therefore a whole lot more control comes into play. And where you've had an organisation trying to achieve its aims together and people working together and trusting each other, once that trust breaks down, everything slows down, everything comes more regulated, the innovation and flair tends to step back for a while, and it just takes a whole lot of time to rebuild. So the fraud is The dollars are there, but they're not the major effect. The major effect is what slows those organisations down on what they were trying to do.
How can accountancy and finance majors better prepare themselves for the challenges of the workplace outside of just achieving good grades?
Well, that's what I've been talking about this week a wee bit, because the accountancy finance world is changing really quickly. Technology has stepped in to take away a lot of the roles that accountants and finance professionals used to do. So much more stuff is automated that the things that we built our careers on just don't happen anymore. They happen instantaneously through technology. So if you look at the people that are coming into the sector now, there's an assumption that you've got the basics right, and that's your grades and that's the story. The reality is it's all about relationships and people. So it is the communication piece, it's the ability to take complex issues and turn them into a story that people can understand and then act on. If you've got those skills there, so you look for people who've got a broader range of experience in life, who have had the opportunity to work with a whole range of people and have got enough intellectual capital sitting behind them to allow them to actually contribute in a positive way.
What qualities do you look for when hiring new graduates?
Well, coming back to that previous question, it's about the rounded person. If you often talk to graduates after they've gone through a recruitment process, they'll be surprised that people didn't ask them about their grades or ask them about the technical piece, because that's not what organisations are looking for. We can do the technical stuff in lots of organisations I work with using IT or using people globally around the world. What we're looking for is the relationships that'll build between customers or between clients, if that's the case, or patients if you're in the health system. That's the key part. And so what we're looking for is people who've got that really good grounding, but then have the ability to communicate with people. And I can't stress that enough. That's actually where the profession is heading.
What do you perceive as the greatest challenge facing businesses during the next 10 years?
As a governor, the things that sit in front of me, there's a build-up of regulation, which is people's natural response to things that go wrong. So there's more regulation in play and more wanting to blame people for something. So that's part of it. The biggest challenge is just the speed of change. We talk about disruptive technologies and everyone talks about Airbnb and Uber and the rest of it, but those things are happening in the accounting profession. They're happening in every organisation I work with somewhere around the world. And so if organisations have to stay on top of what's actually coming at them, recognising that they're not in a local market, they are in a global market, things are changing really fast, and while they can be really good at what they do now, in 2 years' time nobody may want what they're doing. So I think that's the challenge for people. That's the continuous improvement, the curiosity, the ongoing education piece that you just have to do to stay in place. Big challenge, but that's what makes it fun. Otherwise you'd be doing the same thing for 40 years and that's pretty boring.
Given the high level of involvement that you have on boards, you must attend a lot of meetings. I'm just wondering, how do you balance the demands of a busy workload with your own private life?
Well, I do attend a lot of meetings, and I may be there physically, sometimes I may well not be there mentally. But I guess for me, I made a career choice 4 or 5 years ago to come out of the major firms and do my own thing. That's about choosing to work with people I like, and organisations I like and interest me, so there's an interest piece that helps. Outside of it, I sit on a bike in central Otago. You wouldn't know it looking in at me, but I do, and just ride a fair bit from there or paddle my kayak on the lake. And I've got a 1-year-old grandson who's just starting to walk, so he brings you back to reality really quick and actually lets you know what's important. So I can't stress enough the importance of getting good people around you and getting relaxation, because it can be quite stressful, the other stuff we do.
Thank you for your time, Graham. It's been really interesting.
Thanks, Delina. Appreciate it. It's been great.